The battlefield was quiet now. Smoke drifted across the horizon, covering the stars with a dark veil. Machines that once carried destruction lay broken, their metal twisted into silent ruins. The war that had raged for years was finally ending, but at a heavy cost. Elias Varon, a human soldier, stood in the wreckage. His armor was cracked and his body was bruised, but his eyes were sharp and alive. He had fought countless battles, yet this one felt different. The silence that followed did not bring peace, it brought sorrow. Beside him lay Threx Kalor, his alien comrade. Threx was tall and powerful, with skin that glowed faintly like crystal. His kind, the Valons, were proud warriors, known across the galaxy for their honor. Threx had been Elias's closest ally, fighting at his side through endless campaigns. Together they had stood against enemies that wanted only profit from chaos. Now Threx was dying. Elias dropped to his knees, pressing a hand to his friend's wound. The alien's chest rose and fell weakly. The battlefield's silence was broken by Elias's rough voice. "Stay with me, Threx, we're not finished yet. You can't leave now." Threx gave a faint smile, his crystal-like eyes glowing dim. "Human, you always think battles never end. But this one, it ends for me here." Elias shook his head fiercely.
"No, you'll survive."
"You're stronger than any of us." But Threx only raised a trembling hand and placed it on Elias's shoulder. "Strength is not in flesh. It is in what we leave behind." Memories flashed through Elias's mind. The first time they met, when suspicion ruled between humans and Valons. Threx had stepped forward, offering alliance when others doubted. Over years of hardship, trust had grown. They had saved each other's lives more times than they could count. In the heat of war, they had become brothers. Now Elias could only watch helplessly as his brother's life slipped away. Threx coughed, his deep voice shaking. "I have one last gift for you, Elias. A promise I must entrust to you." Elias leaned closer. "Anything. Tell me." The alien warrior's gaze turned distant as though seeing beyond the smoke, beyond the stars. "I leave you my wealth. Everything I have built. Not only credits and treasures, but lands, fleets, influence. It is yours." Elias froze, stunned. He had never cared for riches. To him, Threx was more than enough. "I don't want your wealth," Elias whispered. "I only want you alive." Threx's grip tightened slightly on Elias's shoulder. "Listen, my wealth is not just metal and numbers. It is a tool to build something better, to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Use it. Promise me." Elias swallowed hard, fighting tears. "I promise." But Threx was not finished. His eyes softened as he spoke again. "There is one more gift. My wife." Elias blinked in shock. "What?" Threx's voice grew weaker, but his words carried deep weight. "Her name is Lyra. She is strong, wiser than I, and she will be alone when I am gone. I cannot leave her unprotected in this galaxy of shadows. Promise me, you will watch over her, guide her, let her guide you. Together, keep alive the dream we fought for." Elias's heart tightened. He had never met Lyra, though Threx had spoken of her often, of her courage, her kindness, her sharp mind. To accept such a duty felt impossible, yet he saw no jest in his comrade's eyes. This was no casual request. It was a sacred trust. Elias bowed his head. "I swear it. I will honor her. I will protect her. She will not face the future alone." Threx's face relaxed. Relief spread across his features. "Good. Then I can rest." The alien's eyes dimmed slowly, the glow fading like a star at dawn. His hand fell from Elias's shoulder. His chest rose one last time and grew still. Elias knelt in silence, the weight of grief heavy on him. Around him stretched the ruins of war. But in that moment, all he saw was the fallen figure of his friend. He whispered into the night, "You'll be remembered, brother. Your dream will not die." The war officially ended days later. With the profiteers exposed and their fleets broken, the galaxy entered an uneasy peace. But for Elias, peace felt empty. He carried not only his own survival, but the final promise of a comrade who had given him everything. When the battles were settled, a summons came from the Valon Council. Elias was invited to Threx's homeworld to attend a private ceremony. The journey there was quiet. Elias sat in the cabin of the transport ship, staring at the stars. He thought of Threx's words again and again: wealth, influence, and a wife he had never met. What would she think of him? Would she accept his presence or resent him as an intruder in her life? Elias had faced armies without fear, but this filled him with unease. The Valen homeworld was breathtaking. Oceans shimmered with glowing light, and mountains rose like sharp crystals against the horizon. Cities were carved into cliffs and towers of glassy stone, glowing under twin moons. When Elias landed, he was greeted by guards clad in ceremonial armor. They did not treat him as an outsider, but as someone carrying Threx's final will. With solemn respect, they led him to the capital. The ceremony was quiet, attended only by close allies. Elias stood among Valens of great stature, feeling small yet honored. When the rites ended, a voice called his name, and then he saw her. Lyra Kalor stood at the edge of the hall, her presence commanding attention without a single word. She was tall like her people, her features strong yet graceful, her eyes glowing faintly with inner light. She wore garments of dark silver, simple yet dignified. For a moment, Elias could not speak. She was exactly as Threx had described, calm, wise, and unshaken even in grief. Lyra approached him slowly. "You are Elias," she said, her voice clear and steady. Elias bowed his head respectfully. "Yes, I fought beside Threx until the end. He was my brother." She studied him for a long moment. Her gaze was not hostile, but measured, as though weighing the truth of his soul. Finally she spoke. "He told me about you, that you were reckless, stubborn, and loyal without limit." A faint smile tugged at Elias's lips. "That sounds like him." Lyra's expression softened slightly, but only slightly. "He entrusted me to you. Do you understand what that means?" Elias straightened. "I do. I swore to him I would honor his will. His wealth, his people, and you. I will not break that promise." Silence stretched between them. At last, Lyra gave a slow nod. "Then we will see if his trust was well placed." The following days were filled with duties Elias had never known. Threx's wealth was vast. Land holdings across colonies, fleets of trade ships, entire networks of influence within councils and guilds. Elias felt like a soldier dropped into a maze of politics and responsibility. Lyra guided him. She moved with calm authority, speaking to advisors, correcting mistakes, and explaining customs to Elias. Though she carried her own grief, she showed no weakness. Instead, she worked tirelessly, as if by keeping busy she could keep sorrow at bay. Elias, though often uncertain, followed her lead. He was used to war, not wealth, but he learned quickly, his honesty and courage earning respect even among those who doubted him. And slowly, a fragile bond began to form between them. Not of romance, not yet, but of trust. One evening, Elias walked alone through the glowing gardens of the capital. The stars reflected in the crystal pools, reminding him of Threx's last night. He felt the weight of the promise again pressing on his shoulders. Lyra joined him quietly, standing at his side. "You still carry grief," she said softly. "I do," Elias admitted. "Every battle leaves scars. But this one, it took my brother. I don't know if I can ever set that down." Lyra's gaze turned to the stars. "He believed in you, enough to trust you with all he valued most. Perhaps the way to honor him is not to grieve forever, but to build what he dreamed." Elias looked at her. Her face was calm, but her words carried strength. In that moment, he realized something. Threx had not given him a burden. He had given him a purpose. That night, Elias made a silent vow. He would not let Threx's gift fade into dust. He would protect Lyra. He would use the wealth not for himself, but for the vision Threx had believed in, a future where humans and Valen stood as allies, not rivals. It was the beginning of a journey he had never expected, a path filled with danger, duty, and bonds unbreakable. And though he did not yet know it, this was only the first step toward a legacy that would change the galaxy. Captain Elias Ward had always believed that battles ended with the silence of guns. He thought peace came after war and the rest was just memory. But when the war ended and his alien comrade Threx was gone, Elias learned that battles could continue in quieter ways. They shifted into courtrooms, council halls, and quiet corridors filled with whispers. The transport ship broke through the blue mist of Valen's atmosphere. From the viewing deck, Elias watched as the alien world stretched below him, green oceans glowing faintly with bioluminescent waves, long chains of silver islands and towering crystalline spires that reached skyward like frozen lightning. It was beautiful, unlike any human world he had seen. Yet he felt heavy, carrying the memory of Threx's last words and the promise he had made. When the ship touched down, Valen honor guards awaited him. They bowed their heads respectfully, but their eyes lingered with suspicion. Humans were new allies. Many Valens respected them, but others saw them as intruders. Elias straightened his uniform, forcing calm into his steps. He was not here as a conqueror or a stranger. He was here to keep a promise. At the heart of the city stood the Hall of Bonds, a vast structure made of living crystal that pulsed faintly with energy. Elias entered, guided by a quiet attendant. Inside, the air was cool, carrying a faint hum like a heartbeat. There, waiting with still dignity, was Lyra, Threx's widow. She was tall, her skin carrying a soft sheen like polished stone, her eyes glowing with deep silver light. Elias had seen her only once before, in a brief communication call during the war. Now meeting her in person, he felt the weight of her presence. She was calm, composed, and yet her gaze carried something unspoken. Loss, strength, and quiet fire. "Captain Ward," she greeted, her voice melodic yet firm. "You carry the memory of my husband." Elias bowed his head, remembering Valon custom. "I do, and I carry his last gift. He asked me to stand by you to honor his legacy." Her eyes narrowed slightly. Many would see such a gift as a burden. "Do you?" Elias shook his head. "I see it as a promise between comrades. Threx saved my life more than once. I intend to keep my word." For a moment, silence filled the hall. Then Lyra inclined her head, the faintest trace of approval passing across her features. The days that followed tested Elias more than the battlefield ever had. Valen customs were intricate, built on honor, symbolism, and ancient traditions. As Threx's chosen, Elias was treated as kin. That meant respect, but also scrutiny. Every word he spoke, every gesture was weighed carefully. Lyra guided him through these customs not as a gentle teacher, but as a strict guardian. "When you speak before the council, do not lower your head too much. It will be seen as weakness," she instructed one morning. "But raise it too high and they will call you arrogant." Elias tried to learn quickly, though he often stumbled. At a welcoming feast, he reached for food with his right hand instead of his left. The room fell into sharp silence. Only Lyra's calm explanation saved him from insult. Afterward, Elias muttered, "I fought entire fleets, and yet I'm defeated by a dinner plate." For the first time, Lyra's composure cracked. A small, brief smile touched her lips. "You are learning, slowly." Yet behind these lessons, danger stirred. Threx's fortune was immense. Resources, trade routes, and investments spread across half a dozen systems. Many saw it as ripe for the taking now that Threx was gone. Already rivals whispered that a human had no right to hold alien wealth. Late one evening, Elias found Lyra standing alone on a balcony, the city glowing beneath her. "They will come for us," she said softly, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "Not with open battle, but with schemes and accusations. They will say you are unfit, that I am weak without Threx." Elias stepped beside her. "Then we'll prove them wrong, together." Her gaze shifted to him, searching his face. For a long moment she said nothing. Then she nodded. "Together." The first challenge came sooner than expected. A faction leader, Lord Vake, summoned Elias to a council chamber. The hall was filled with Valen nobles, their crystalline garments shimmering in the light. Elias stood tall, though he felt their eyes pierce him like blades. Lord Vake's voice rang out. "A human claims the inheritance of a Valan warrior. Is this respect or theft? Threx's wealth belongs to his people, not an outsider." Murmurs filled the chamber. Elias waited, then answered slowly, careful with his words. "I do not claim it for myself. Threx entrusted me with it because he believed it should be used with honor. I will not betray his trust." The hall grew tense. Lord Vake pressed further. "Then return it to us. If your claim is pure, you need nothing of it." Elias clenched his fist but kept his voice steady. "It was not given to me to abandon. It was given to protect. Until Lyra and I decide how it serves Threx's legacy, it will not be touched by greedy hands." Gasps rippled across the room. Some looked offended, others impressed. Lyra, standing at his side, did not speak, but Elias noticed the faintest gleam in her silver eyes. Later, when they left the hall, she said quietly, "You spoke with fire." "It was dangerous. Did I shame you?" Elias asked. "No," she replied. "You reminded them of Threx's spirit." He would have approved, but their enemies did not rest. Within days, false rumors spread. Accusations claimed Elias sought to buy power, to weaken Valan traditions. Assassins struck in the night, strange shadows slipping through the crystalline streets. Elias fought them off with soldier's instinct, but each attack grew bolder. Through it all, Lyra remained calm, her mind sharp, her voice steady in every council session. She was no fragile widow. She was a diplomat, a strategist, and perhaps stronger than any soldier Elias had known. Together they formed a shield, his strength and her wisdom. One evening, after another exhausting day of hearings and threats, Elias asked her, "Why do you trust me? I am an outsider." "You could have refused me." Lyra looked at him steadily. "Because Threx chose you. And because I see in your eyes the same thing I saw in his, the will to stand even when it would be easier to fall." Elias felt a quiet resolve settle in his chest. For the first time since Threx's death, he no longer felt like a soldier lost after battle. He felt like he was exactly where he was meant to be. The whispers of war profiteers grew louder. Some said Threx's death had been no accident. Others warned that his wealth was the key to hidden plots. Elias began to realize that Threx's gift was more than just inheritance. It was a test, a weapon, and perhaps a warning. But in that moment, standing in the alien city beside Lyra, Elias made a silent vow. He would not fail Threx. He would not fail her. Whatever storm was coming, they would face it together, and deep inside he knew the real battle had only just begun. The nights on Velan were never truly dark. The oceans glowed faintly, the crystal towers shimmered with stored starlight, and the skies carried the soft pulse of distant satellites. Yet for Captain Elias Ward, the nights felt heavy, filled with unseen dangers. He had fought many battles in space where the enemy was clear and the battlefield was wide. But here, among alien halls and shifting politics, the enemy hid behind smiles, whispers, and shadows. Lyra moved through these shadows with calm grace. She seemed untouched by fear, though Elias knew she must feel it. After every council meeting, new accusations arose. Some leaders claimed Elias was using Threx's fortune to build secret power. Others insisted Lyra was too weak to hold her late husband's estate. The pressure was constant, like waves breaking against stone, and then came the assassins. The first attack happened in silence. Elias was returning from a late council session when the air shifted around him. A flicker of motion caught his eye. Too fast, too quiet. Without thinking, he dropped low as a blade of shimmering energy cut the air where his chest had been. The attacker was tall and cloaked, moving with alien speed. Elias's instincts took over. He blocked with his forearm, twisted and slammed the figure into the wall. The assassin hissed in an unknown tongue and slipped free, disappearing into the night like smoke. When Elias reported it, the guards nodded grimly. "It begins," one muttered. That same night, Lyra summoned him to her chamber. She listened without surprise, only with quiet resolve. "They want to break you," she said. "They think if they kill you, I will be left without an ally. They do not understand you are not my shield. You are my comrade." Elias looked at her seriously. "They'll come again." "For both of us," she nodded. "Yes, and we must be ready." Days turned into a tense routine. Elias trained with Velan guards, teaching them human combat drills while learning their silent blade techniques. Lyra worked tirelessly in the council, deflecting accusations with sharp words and careful diplomacy. Yet the attacks grew bolder. A poisoned drink offered during a feast, a collapsing balcony that almost crushed them both, a sudden fire in their quarters traced back to a deliberate spark. Each time they survived. Each time they grew more certain that this was not random hostility. Someone powerful wanted them gone. Elias began to suspect that Threx's death had not been a simple casualty of war. The way the ambush had unfolded, the strange precision of the enemy ships, had it been arranged? He had dismissed the thought in grief, but now it returned sharper than ever. One night, while walking with Lyra along the glowing ocean shore, Elias finally voiced his suspicion. "What if Threx didn't just fall in battle?" he asked quietly. "What if someone wanted him gone? To get to all this?" Lyra stopped, her silver eyes reflecting the waves. For a long moment she said nothing. Then softly, "I have wondered the same. Threx was strong, but he had many enemies. His voice in the council was too honest, too dangerous for those who profit from war." Elias's fists clenched. "Then they killed him," her voice hardened. "If they did, we will find the truth, and we will not let them bury his legacy in lies." The next piece of evidence came unexpectedly. A young courier, trembling and nervous, slipped Elias a sealed data crystal after a council meeting. "For you," the courier whispered, eyes darting around. "Don't let them see." Elias took it to Lyra's private study. Together, they activated the crystal. Holograms flickered to life. Coded messages, intercepted transmissions, fragments of battle orders. Piece by piece, a picture formed. The ambush that killed Threx had not been random. It had been coordinated by shadowy merchants and war profiteers, those who thrived on keeping the galaxy in conflict. Threx had been close to exposing them. His death had silenced his voice, until now. Elias felt fury burn in his chest. They murdered him to keep their war alive. And now they want us gone so no one will uncover it. Lyra's expression was calm, but her hands tightened on the table. "Then they have underestimated us. Threx trusted you with his gift because he knew this day would come. He left us the means to fight." The conspiracy ran deeper than either of them expected. Wealth was not the only thing Threx had left behind. He had hidden allies, coded safe houses, and secret records. As Elias and Lyra uncovered them, they realized they were holding the keys to exposing an entire network of corruption. But the danger grew sharper. The assassins no longer came one at a time. One night, as Elias walked the crystalline halls, 4 attackers emerged at once, their blades flashing. Elias fought like a soldier, his training precise, his strikes efficient. But they were fast, and for every one he struck down, another appeared. Just as one assassin raised a blade to strike him from behind, a sharp crystal dart pierced its chest. Lyra stood at the doorway, a weapon in her hand, her eyes blazing. "You will not take him," she declared. Together they fought side by side until the last attacker fell. Breathing hard, Elias turned to her. "You saved my life," she answered calmly, though her hand still trembled. "As you have saved mine. We are even now." But in her gaze, Elias saw more than calm. He saw determination and something deeper, trust that was no longer forced by duty but chosen freely. Word of the attack spread across the city. Some began to whisper admiration, this human and this widow standing firm against endless threats. Others grew more hostile, accusing them of bringing chaos to Valen. Yet Elias and Lyra pressed on. They gathered allies, minor council members who respected Threx, common citizens who had benefited from his generosity, young officers who had admired his courage. Slowly, quietly, a movement began to form. But the conspirators struck back. One evening, an explosion rocked the Hall of Bonds. The beautiful crystal walls cracked, light spilling out like blood. Panic filled the city. Accusations flew, and all eyes turned to Elias and Lyra. "They will say this is our doing," Lyra whispered as they fled the smoke. "They will try to turn the people against us. Then we need to act first," Elias said. "We need to show them the truth." The truth, however, was dangerous. To reveal it, they would have to expose the secret files, proof of the profiteers' crimes. But doing so would also mean declaring open war against some of the most powerful figures in the galaxy. Late at night, in the quiet of Lyra's chamber, Elias spoke his thoughts. "This is bigger than us. If we fail, we'll be hunted until the end of our lives. If we succeed, we'll start a storm that could tear everything apart." Lyra met his eyes steadily. Threx knew the risk, and yet he chose to stand. "Do you think he left us this gift for comfort? No, he left it as a weapon. And we will wield it not for ourselves but for those who cannot fight these shadows." Elias felt the weight of her words settle deep inside him. In that moment he knew their path was set. From then on there was no turning back. Elias and Lyra prepared to move against the conspiracy. They gathered documents, secured Threx's hidden accounts, and planned their strike. Every step was dangerous. Every ally risked betrayal. But through it all, Elias and Lyra grew closer. Not in romance, not yet, but in a bond forged by fire. They trusted each other completely. They fought not as soldier and widow, not as human and alien, but as comrades bound by Threx's memory. One evening, as they looked out over the glowing ocean, Lyra spoke softly. "Threx once told me that humans were strange. You live such short lives, yet you burn so brightly. I see now why he chose you." Elias answered quietly. "And I see why he loved you. You're stronger than anyone I've ever known." For a moment, the silence between them was filled not with grief, but with understanding. But the shadows were still moving. And Elias knew the final confrontation was coming soon. The war he thought had ended was not over. It had only changed shape. And this time the battlefield was not the stars but the hearts and trust of an entire people. The city of Velan still trembled after the explosion at the Hall of Bonds. Broken crystals lay scattered like shattered stars, and the people whispered in fear. Some believed the attackers were unknown enemies. Others, poisoned by rumors, accused Elias and Lyra of treachery. But amid the ruins, Elias felt something stronger than fear: resolve. He knew this was the moment Threx had prepared him for. In the days that followed, Elias and Lyra moved with quiet determination. Threx's hidden fortune gave them resources, but wealth alone could not win trust. They needed allies. They needed to show that Threx's legacy was more than gold and crystal. It was hope. Their first step was to bring aid to those who had been forgotten. War had left many colonies starving and broken. While the council argued and the profiteers counted their credits, Elias and Lyra used Threx's wealth to send food, medicine, and shelter to those who needed it most. When Elias visited the ruined colony of Estrel, children with hollow eyes stared at him in wonder. "You're the human," one whispered. "The one who fights with the widow." Elias knelt to meet their gaze. "No, I fight for you, for the people Threx wanted to protect." The child's eyes brightened. Word spread quickly. For the first time, many began to see Elias not as a thief of wealth, but as a guardian. At the same time, Lyra fought her battles in council chambers. She stood tall against the accusations of men like Lord Vake, her voice calm but sharp. "You speak of wealth," she said one day, her silver eyes flashing. "But what do you do with it? Hoard it? Use it to buy more war?" Threx gave his fortune to one who understands honor. "If you want to challenge that, then show us your deeds. Show us how you have lifted a single starving child, or rebuilt a single home." The chamber grew silent. Even those who had doubted her felt the weight of her words. When Elias heard of her speech later, he smiled. "You didn't need me in that hall. You crushed them yourself." Lyra shook her head. "I had your strength behind me. That is what gave me fire." But the conspirators did not stop. Their shadows spread further, planting spies among the guards, bribing council members, and spreading lies. Every victory Elias and Lyra achieved was answered with new threats. Then came a chilling discovery. One of Threx's old allies, an aged Valen captain, revealed to them a coded ledger, proof that the profiteers had not only killed Threx but planned to reignite war across 3 star systems. If successful, millions would suffer. Elias felt his anger boil. "We can't wait. We need to strike now. Reveal this to everyone." Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "If we move too soon, they will twist it. They control too many voices. We need to build a shield of truth so strong that their lies cannot pierce it." Elias looked into her steady eyes and forced himself to breathe. "Then we build it together." The building of that shield began with alliances. Elias reached out to human commanders who had once fought beside him. Lyra summoned old friends from the diplomatic corps. Slowly, a network formed: humans, Valens, and others who respected Threx's vision. One evening, Elias stood in a quiet chamber with 12 representatives from different colonies. They were cautious, wary of each other. But when Elias spoke, his voice carried the weight of his promise. Threx died because he stood against those who profit from war. They thought killing him would end his mission. They were wrong. We carry his fire now. If you believe in peace, if you believe in honor, then stand with us. Not for me, not even for Lyra, but for Threx and for the people who cannot fight for themselves. The room fell silent. Then slowly, one by one, the representatives nodded. The alliance was born, yet alliances came with cost. Assassins struck again, this time in open daylight, blades flashing in crowded markets. Elias fought fiercely, defending civilians as well as himself. Blood stained the streets, but the people saw with their own eyes that he did not run, that he shielded even strangers. When the attackers fled, the crowd began to chant. "Ward, Ward!" His name echoed through the crystal streets. Later, Lyra said quietly, "You are no longer just a foreigner. They see you now as one of us." Elias met her gaze. "Not me alone. They see us, what we fight for." For the first time since Threx's death, Lyra's eyes softened. "Yes, us." The turning point came when Elias and Lyra uncovered a secret vault hidden beneath the old trade district. Within its crystalline walls lay records of corruption, shipments of weapons sent to both sides during the war, contracts signed by profiteers who had pretended to call for peace while fueling the flames. It was undeniable proof. Elias stared at the glowing records. This is it. With this we can bring them down. But Lyra's face was grave. If we reveal it, they will strike back with everything they have. Armies, assassins, lies. They will not stop until we are destroyed. Elias nodded slowly, then let them come. I didn't survive Threx's war to fall in this one. The final step was not war but truth. They prepared to present the evidence before the Grand Assembly, where leaders from across the galaxy would meet. It was a dangerous plan. One misstep and they would be silenced forever. The night before, Elias stood on the balcony of their quarters, looking out over the glowing ocean. Lyra joined him, her presence quiet but strong. You could walk away, she said softly. Take what you have and leave. No one would blame you. Elias shook his head. Threx saved my life more times than I can count. He trusted me with this. If I walked away, I'd betray him. I'd betray you. Lyra studied him for a long moment. He trusted you because he knew you would not falter. I see now why. There was silence, filled only by the sound of the waves. Elias turned to her. Whatever happens tomorrow, we face it together. Her silver eyes shone faintly in the starlight. Together. The day of the assembly came. The hall was vast, filled with leaders, soldiers, and diplomats from across systems. Suspicion hung in the air. Many expected Elias and Lyra to fail, to be crushed by the powerful profiteers. But when they stepped forward, they did not bow their heads. They stood tall. Lyra spoke first, her voice clear. You call us thieves. You call us weak. But we are the guardians of Threx's last gift, truth, and today we give it to you. Elias activated the vault records. Holograms filled the chamber, shipments of weapons, bribes, orders for assassination. The crowd gasped as the truth spread before their eyes. The profiteers shouted, denied, accused. But it was too late. The evidence was clear. For the first time, the assembly saw the shadows for what they were. That night, when the hall finally emptied and the people chanted Threx's name in remembrance, Elias and Lyra stood together in the quiet. They had not won yet. Their enemies still held armies and influence, but they had taken the first true step toward victory. And in that quiet moment, Elias realized what Threx's last gift truly meant. Not just wealth, not just companionship. It was trust, the trust that together they could carry a legacy stronger than death. The great hall of the assembly had not known such uproar in decades. The air still echoed with shouts, accusations, and gasps from the revelations Elias and Lyra had laid bare. Holograms of corrupted contracts, hidden shipments, and secret bribes glowed in the minds of every leader who had seen them. For the profiteers, the mask was broken. But broken masks could still bite. That night the city was uneasy. Fires lit the sky as angry mobs clashed. Some demanding justice, others defending the conspirators who had filled their pockets. Guards patrolled the streets, their armor shining in the glow of unrest. Elias and Lyra returned to their quarters under heavy protection. Yet even there the air felt sharp like the edge of a blade. Elias could not sleep. He stood at the window, watching the glowing ocean churn. Lyra entered quietly. You are restless, she said. I keep thinking, Elias replied, that tomorrow they'll try again. Assassins, bombs, lies, whatever they can throw at us. Lyra stepped beside him. Yes, but we have already torn away their shadows. Now they fight not as hidden masters, but as cornered beasts. And beasts can be defeated. Elias nodded slowly. Then we finish it. The finishing came sooner than expected. At dawn, alarms rang across the city. A fleet of warships, mercenaries hired by the profiteers, descended upon the skies of Velon. Their weapons glowed, ready to strike fear into the planet. The council panicked. Leaders argued, some urging surrender, others demanding counterattack. But no decision came, only chaos. Elias and Lyra stood in the command chamber, calm amid the storm. They want to break us before the truth takes root, Lyra said firmly. Elias looked at the tactical display. Then we don't let them. We fight, not just with ships, but with the people. Drawing upon Threx's hidden accounts, Elias contacted human fleets still loyal to him. At the same time, Lyra rallied Valen defenders. Messages were sent across colonies calling on allies who had believed in Threx's dream. When the mercenary fleet entered orbit, they expected a broken people. Instead, they found a united force, human and Valen ships flying side by side. Elias took command of the joint fleet. His voice rang through the comms. We fight not for riches, not for conquest. but for the legacy of a warrior who stood for peace. Today we honor Threx. Today we show them humanity will never bow to shadows. The battle lit the skies. The mercenaries fought fiercely, but they were hired guns, not believers. The joint fleet fought with unity and purpose. Elias led with skill, his strategies honed from years of war. Lyra coordinated from the ground, directing defenses and keeping the people steady. At one critical moment, when a mercenary dreadnought charged its main cannon, Elias remembered Threx's maneuver, the silent wing. He dove his ship into the heart of the blast path, drawing fire just long enough for Allied cruisers to strike. The dreadnought shattered in flames. The people cheered across comm channels. For the first time, humans and Valens shouted together, their voices one. Within hours, the mercenary fleet broke and fled, their commanders abandoning the fight. But the conspirators on the ground did not flee. They barricaded themselves in the inner council tower, defiant to the end. Elias and Lyra entered the tower with guards, their footsteps echoing against cold crystal walls. Inside, the profiteers sneered. "You think you have won?" Lord Vake spat. "But wealth is eternal. Power is eternal. Kill us and more will rise." Lyra's voice was steady. "No, wealth is nothing without honor. Power is nothing without trust. You built empires on blood, but empires of blood always fall." Elias stepped forward, his eyes sharp. "Threx is gone, but his fire lives in us. You can't kill that. You can't bribe that. You've already lost." The guards moved in, placing the profiteers under arrest. Their empire of shadows crumbled in a single moment. When the tower doors closed behind them, Elias felt a strange weight lift from his chest. For the first time in months, he allowed himself to breathe deeply. "It's over," he murmured. Lyra shook her head gently. "No, the fight is never truly over. But this chapter is closed." In the weeks that followed, the galaxy shifted. The profiteers' trial was broadcast across worlds. Their crimes, undeniable, became a warning to all who sought to profit from war, but more important was what came after. Using Threx's wealth, Elias and Lyra founded the foundation of the Bond, an alliance dedicated to rebuilding war-torn colonies, supporting both human and Valen communities. Ships carried supplies where once they carried weapons. Schools were built where once there were ruins. Everywhere, the symbol of the Bond spread, 2 hands, 1 human. 1 Valan, clasped together. Elias worked tirelessly, often traveling to distant colonies to oversee efforts. Lyra led from the council, her voice now stronger than ever, her reputation untouchable. Together they turned Threx's fortune into a legacy of peace. One evening, after months of rebuilding, Elias returned from a long journey. He found Lyra waiting in the Foundation's central hall. "You are late," she said with the faintest smile. "Supply routes took longer than planned," he replied, his own smile tugging at his lips. "But the colonies are standing. Children are laughing again. That's worth being late for." She studied him quietly. "You have given more than I expected. More than anyone expected." Elias shook his head. "It wasn't just me. It was Threx, it was you. It was everyone who believed." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Lyra said softly, "Perhaps Threx's last gift was not wealth or even me. Perhaps it was the chance to build this together." Elias looked at her, and in that moment he understood. She was right. Years later, when Elias walked through the streets of Valan, children ran to greet him. Some were human, some Valan, some of other allied species, but they played together without fear. An old soldier once asked him, "Do you ever regret it? Taking the burden of another man's wealth, his people, his wife?" Elias smiled faintly. "It was never a burden. It was a gift, the greatest I've ever been given." On the anniversary of Threx's death, Elias and Lyra stood together by the ocean. The waves glowed and the stars above reflected in the water. "We kept our promise," Elias said quietly. Lyra's voice was steady, filled with calm strength. "Yes, his legacy is alive, and so long as we live, it will never fade." They stood in silence, not as human and alien, not as soldier and widow, but as comrades bound by trust. The galaxy would always face new shadows, but now there was a light strong enough to drive them back, and that light was the last gift of an alien comrade. His wealth, his trust, and the bond that would outlive them all.